Hello everyone, it has been a while since you've heard my actual voice. This is Anti-Wave on the field. Today I got a game with my friend Reno up against PH Fire Scale and Chaos Ordered if I remember correctly. We were on Exile, oh my gosh, Exile, Crevice, 2v2 map, and we picked random all, whereas they picked their leaders. Fire Scale picked Cutter and Chaos Ordered picked Anders. We kind of got the short end of the stick, mainly more of me for the UNSC. I think Arbiter was pretty good and extremely helpful for later. We pretty much thought we were going to lose this game based off of the leader disadvantage, but because they relied on the reactors too much, it will cost them in the end. And the fact that they give us too much time to ready up and let me do my job. So as you saw earlier, we both expoed, or rather, Reno had me fake expo, where we take the base initially and all those other things. I will be cutting some downtime moments here and there because the first initial 4 minutes don't amount to much. It's just us building up. We noticed that Cutter and Anders both take the reactors, and my guess was Anders was going Gauss and Cutter was going to sit back and get their tanks up. So I amassed a large amount of flamethrowers in the hopes of taking as many reactors as I can to set them back. So as of right now, as you see, I'm going to Pelican and take the furthest reactor. Cutter, if I remember correctly, has that one, yeah. And the game plan here is for me to attempt to get power to your tanks as soon as possible, and for Reno to get Banshees. However, he gets attacked by Anders pretty soon. Right now, it's either Gunner or Gren, but that will become Gods later. However, I'm able to hold him off soon. So now I Pelican perfectly next to the Flood. Take that out immediately. Thank the heavens, and twice. And I'm able to take out the 3-star Marines, zero problem, and the resources right in front of them.
Supply pad complete.
Sir. Ready to burn. Good to go, sir. Roger that. Yes, sir. Let's go. Ring it.
Reactor.
Help pickup coordinates set. Right here. Standing by.
So, yellow and green are doing their best to take down purple, and it is annoying because I am kind of just sitting here watching him take the damage. I really wish I had tank out sooner, but everything happened. Yeah, goodness, everything happens for a reason. So for some reason, Cutter has about 6 or 7 plus Marines if you flamethrowers attacking, while Anders has the Gauss to in an attempt to strip Reno's base. And that will bite them in the behind longer because I think had Cutter just focused on amassing those tanks, we would have been forced to resign a lot sooner than normal. I mean, at this point, I saw the Gauss and I was already like, man, it's kind of over because I don't know what else to do. But I decided to attempt to take the reactors down at the bottom. I wish I saw my Warthog down there sooner, but oh well, things happen. I believe Cutter used his first D-bomb, and then Anders is going to be next. Yep, Anders is definitely next using that sequence D-bomb. So they used 2 D-bombs in a short span of time. So that gives me the freedom to do what I have to. And also, I gotta say, thanks for Reno giving me that click early when I expanded, so I can get my eco constantly rolling. As you see, I go to the middle while they're hammering Reno. It's a good thing they were so focused on him. Because of that, I was allowed to do what I please. The play here was for me to get Cancer Shell while pumping tanks at the same time. I wanted to amass an army of candy, but considering they had reactors for who knows how long, Anders was probably already researching Power Turret and Gremlin at this point, being the fact that they had an Expo, I think a bit longer, or just more effectively. Because, you know, 225 over 100 these days, right? So, yeah. I'm glad I made those extra flamethrowers and kept the barracks up because now I can just have 5 tech. Spare to overextend. Yep, I have my tank up finally. And the Arbiter and my base tank make quick work of those Gauss. Fortunately, I'm glad I was extremely greedy here. As you see, Cutter is now trying to attack, and also, you probably saw it earlier, but this Cutter was a real a-hole here. This man glitched the Warthog next to my base in the back so we can see whether or not I'm upgrading to something.
Local
So
units.
hey, I was like, man, with all of these advantages and they still lost, I gotta say, man, they should have just been more aggressive or something. They had us here, but I don't know.
Reactor claim.
I was able to cancer shell,
Canister
and
shell.
with the spare resources I have, I was researching power turret. And like I said earlier, the fact that he has that Warthog down there gives him line of sight, so he knows that I'm researching power turret at this moment. However, because of my quick thinking, I'm able to kind of recover that, so you'll see in a moment. I'm also trying to get Spartans up to make up for the difference, even though I'm outmatched in terms of numbers anyway, soon. So as you can see, Yellow is really being aggressive, so yep, he max. I'm able to cancel that and immediately switch to my vehicle depot all the way in the back.
All units.
And it will be an extremely scary race to getting power turret. If you're wondering why I didn't attack, it's because I didn't want to be in a compromising position where I'm out of position and I get EMP by Anders, because I didn't know what Anders was building up after at this point in the game.
All units.
As you see, I saw Anders had Spartan tanks, so my initial guess was, okay, Anders is not going to have as much tanks as Cutter, but as you can see, they're looking for my upgrade because they know I'm researching power turret. And this is where I kind of got mildly worried, and this was the determining factor right here. It's a good thing Cutter wasted his Mac earlier, because all Anders could just do was cryo bomb, so, yep. I was extremely worried right here, but as fortune would have it, I would get power turret in the nick of time. Yep. And power turret was researched, so now I didn't have to worry too much. Now the game was me holding off and helping Reno get as much Banshees as he needs to get, as he did almost lose all of his supplies on his main base, so I was clicking him back so he can make up the difference, while Anders amassed units. Cutter kept throwing tanks at me, which worked a few times as it forced me to turn around. I'm telling you, if Cutter did not send a single tank, I would have pushed. But again, when you have an Anders that can just chain amp you at any moment, it's kind of tough to make those calls to push. So yeah, Cutter just being a nuisance. However, Cutter is losing 3 to 4 tanks at a time. At this point, Reno is now getting Banshees up. I think he's probably second tech, as in repeating cannon. I'm not sure yet. But I did tell him to attempt to take reactors as soon as possible so he can get sacrificed. And this whole game I was debating on whether or not I should try to make some type of push, but I wanted to wait until the both of us were ready to do something. As you see, got this main campaign out here, and I was ahead of both of them for a while, but they're probably researching power turret right at this moment.
Local units. Local units. Local units. All units. All units. All units. All units.
I wish if I had better positioning with my tanks, Reno's Arbiter would have definitely diverted the cancer shell, and I would have cleaned up the Spartan tanks right there, but I was too far away at this point.
Local
Pick
units.
up right here.
All units.
Warmed up.
All units.
Do my best to take out the reactors, and this is where I was like, alright man, you need to get sacrificed ASAP, because you have to make them have some type of wolves to reduce the tank numbers.
All units.
And as you see, I was giving him clicks whenever I was at near max pop of tanks, so he can always have access instead of just meeting the demand for it.
All units.
It's a shame that his Arbiter died, because if he was still alive, he could have just dropped it in the reactors, the Suis in the reactors a lot sooner, but hey, like I said before, everything happens for a reason. By the way, this game was like about 40 minutes and change, but thanks to my editing and cutting some things out, it was like about a 30-minute match, maybe a little less, so thank me for that, Slinga.
Ready? Going. Send me in.
Yeah, we'll Yellow kept throwing his tanks away, it made things a lot easier for us later on. And yeah, something I like to do as forward is if I'm ever at a maximum population with my units and things like that, and I have access, I will try to give it to my teammates as much as possible to make them on the same page as me.
Local units. Ready. Local units.
And I think now, yeah, I gave Reno the extra click to ensure that he gets sacrificed. I think I remember telling him he should try to upgrade his Expo to a Citadel if he hasn't done so yet, because extra money or shield, whatever. He tends to always stay on a station for a lot of reasonable reasons, but when nothing's going on, you need that Citadel, and I'll make sure it's fine. So, Reno is either repeating cannon and or sacrifice at this moment, so those armored tanks are forced to run away.
Base under attack. All units.
Honestly, what I could have done to make the games a lot easier was push Anders instead, considering Anders is the bigger threat. But I mean, it's tough to make that choice. They're both ridiculous when it's a Ford we're talking about. Ford falls off at around the 10-minute mark. Especially if they have reactor advantage, which they did. And of course, this card being a nuisance over and over again, just sending tanks back and forth. I tried to make the push and Cutter really went all out and was afraid and built all those turrets just for me. I could have won that tank fight, or I'm currently winning it, but because I just micro or just I'm not paying attention, I'm almost about to lose my entire army. I'm asking Reno for help, but things just happen. We're all fragmented here and things like that.
Local units.
So green is probably chain amp. No, green is chain amp. I'm trying to push in when I can to get a candy off, but it's kind of tough to do so. And his cryo bomb then got a good portion of Reno's army, but of course he could just replenish it. And I was impede, agitatingly so. And this whole time I don't believe, no, I know I didn't get reserves till the later half of the game, whereas they probably were on that for a while. But it goes to show that Forge's economic advantage really trumps Anders and Cutter, and it's a shame that's the only thing he has the advantage over, because if Grizzlies were actually as good as they were, I would upgrade to them, but it's whatever.
All units.
So this was the push that I thought they were going to beat us in, but thanks to Reno being there, they were getting weakened bit by bit. I was, I think, triple pumping tanks, man. I don't know how I was able to stay afloat economically, but that's Forge for you. Green and yellow are both pushing up. I just have to wipe out my tanks. But I'm trying to turn back around whenever I can to weaken them as much as possible.
All units. All units. All units. Enemy engagement. All units. Enemy engagement. All units. All units. All units.
And because of home base advantage, I'm able to replenish forces a lot easier than they could. And green and yellow both very weakened thanks to my and Reno's efforts. However, I did weaken Spartan tanks, and it was tough to try to get upgrades on them. I didn't have the time. I just had to make the Spartans just for the additional damage sake, whereas I think Anders was sitting on not power turret, Spartan laser for a while now.
All units. All units.
Ready to go.
All units.
Where to? Warmed up.
I drop a debump for Reno so he doesn't get cryoed, because it's been more than enough time. I attempt to make the push on Carter's man again, considering he lost a large number of tanks.
Local units.
And we're both trying to hit them at roughly the same time to disorient them.
Units. Local units. Reactor.
We made Anders go to majority Wolverines, which was extremely good for my army of tanks, which meaning I had to fight only one army of tanks, and that would be Carter.
Local units. Local units. Local units. Local units.
Carter dropped the mech and did some okay damage to my tanks, and then Anders comes in, and Anders cryo bombs me. And I remember at this moment, Reno's like, I gotta watch it for a cryo bomb, and I was like, yo, bro, I was cryo, please come back and help. And it took him a second to realize that, even though I said it like twice. A lot of things have happened, or were happening, so it's
Reactor
not trying to make it seem like Reno's bad or anything. It's just a lot of things were on our plate here, because Cutter Anders, they
local
picked it,
units.
so it wasn't even fair anyway.
Local units.
Reno fortunately comes back
All
and
units.
saves the day. I still lose a good number of my tanks, a lot of them being red bar,
All
but
units.
the majority of the anti-air was down from green, allowing Reno to swoop right in and pick off the tanks.
All units. All units. All units.
I'm still holding my ground, however, I am losing my Spartan tanks.
All units.
And here come the Wolverines from Anders. Couldn't get that Spartan back in the tank because, of course, it's my Spartans. Why the hell would they return? Reno do an excellent job of staying above green and weakening him as much as he can.
Under attack. All units. All units.
Fueled up. Orders locked in.
Local units.
Copy it. Rolling out.
And yeah, man, this guy just kept picking at my vehicle depots, but I mean, like, this strategy works and all, but he just kept throwing tanks away one at a time, and it will eat at him later more than it's going to eat at me, losing vehicle depots.
Local units. Local units. Local units. Local units.
Yep, you know, with that drive-by, boosting right over and blowing him up.
All units. All units.
Reno went to the back of Green's Expo, and surprisingly, Green never was a fortress over there, which is strange this whole time.
All units.
So, Reno makes another push to Green, and I unfortunately do not have a D-bomb, but I am attempting to come over there.
Send me in. Yes. Ready to go.
At this point, I think Reno made the suggestion to get Hunters up, which I agreed on, and I remember telling him at this point he should slowly start switching because the Banshees still do their jobs pretty well. As you can see, just because the Banshees alone, Green went the majority of his army Wolverines, which makes things a lot easier for me to deal with. However, once he does get Hunters, though, that will make our job a lot easier, especially for me.
Ready. Yes, sir.
All units. All units.
And fortunately, with my push, we stopped Green from attempting the triple expo right there. And of course, Yellow just be the pest that he is, just keeps sending a tank over to eliminate a vehicle depot. I mean, it's good and all, but if I have 3 of them, it almost doesn't matter. However, because of Green's Spartan upgrade advantage, I am forced to turn around in some instances.
All units. All units. Local units.
And I make the play to stay in front of his expo in order to ensure that he can teleport everywhere and at least focus on something far away from our main base area.
Local units. Local units.
Green attempts to make a push back, and because I'm in the way, he focuses on my army instead of the base that's about to get a shield generator. And at this point, I'm pretty sure Reno has assault beam right now. He's just starting to teleport some of the units in. However, because he just got it, his eco is a bit low from that. Thanks to his Arbiter, though, it's a lot easier to wipe these goddamn units from Green out. However, a Cryo Bomb, no, a D-Bomb and an EMP gets my army. Because those freaking gremlins, man, so annoying. So annoying. And Reno saving the day, going right in with his Banshees, making things a lot easier as Yellow also attempts to reinforce Green. I'm gonna wipe out Gremlin before I get stunned again. and lose potentially more units.
All units.
And here comes yellow from a different angle. I'm doing my best to aim for the Wolverines to make it easier for Reno's Banshees. However, this is really tough.
All units. All units. All units. All units.
Yep. It's a shame that Reno got cryobombed. This Arbor would have made it back and been able to drop off some more hunters, but yeah. Do my best to eliminate the Spartan Wolf because they just got very lucky eliminating my units like that.
All units. All units.
And of course, I have a decent sized population, but of course, as you can see, they're like 800 miles away. So the annoying thing about this whole game was my army getting there before doing any real damage.
Transport is a go.
I tend to see what was up at the middle, and it seems that Cutter was trying to make a push. And fortunately, because I kept on taking out the reactors, which was not shown in the cuts from Cutter, he was not able to get Spartan Laser, only Green was. So that made things a lot easier.
All units. Local units. Local units. Local units. All units. All units.
Up there.
All units. All units. All units.
Send me in. Ready.
Yep. As some time goes by, I was able to get a field armory up, get reinforcements and reserves later, if I remember correctly. Doing my best to push to Yellow's Expo base, see what I can do. But Green's army, I was a bit afraid because of that stupid gremlin. So normally when I'm ever up against a competent Anders, I will be hesitant because all it takes is one wrong chain up and my entire army is of tanks, which is dead. So that's why I've been a little bit hesitant when on engaging. Reno does make a side push to Green's Expo. Considering the fact that he's been relying on the reactors, Reno made the choice to attack the other reactors on the Expo in order to make him not producing more Wolverines while this is going on. They're getting extremely desperate. Yellow, instead of attempting to help his teammate, attempts to push to Purple's side base. And I made the call to tell Reno that any army he has should turn around, because this is how we can win right here with the elimination of Yellow's army since it's too far away. In this case, if Yellow was protecting Green, that could have been their win right there, in my opinion, looking at it now. But it wasn't enough. He didn't even cannon push the base, giving Reno time to come back with his Banshees
All units.
and the rest of my army. Yep, so I got reserves first instead of reinforcements. Okay. Makes sense. Need to rebuild my units fast. Yellow's failed attempt at taking out Reno's Expo, and in a tragedy, and Reno's Hunters just keep pounding at Anders' side base, reducing his eco and rear and tech level.
All units.
So yeah,
All units.
this was our victory.
All units.
It's really interesting how it just goes to show how you can have a leader advantage all you want. It's not going to necessarily matter if the opponents aren't good enough with those leaders. Because I'm telling you, if that was, say, a friend of mine, which is Buses, and I don't know, Dishonored, that same combo, Reno and I would have died at the 2-minute mark. Jokes aside. Because they picked their advantage and they still couldn't make the best of it, mainly because they relied on the reactors too much.
Local units. Local units.
And honestly, if Yellow just pushed at once instead of just trying to annoy me by taking out my vehicle depots, the game would have been very different. Because Anders made a good call with that early Gauss setup, but maybe if Yellow could have went Gauss with Green, it could have been different. Who knows? Who knows?
All units.
It's just that it's thanks to the Covenant advantage of Reno being an Arbiter number 1, and 2, him getting sacrificed Banshees with me supporting him financially at some moments allowed us to come out on top. Because now it's just me doing the cleanup duty, or at least weaken him as much as possible.
All units. All units.
If Anders, say, made more Gremlins,
Field armory.
that also could have changed the outcome of this battle.
All units.
definitely.
All units. All units.
And if Cutter was able to get ODST or
All
upgrade
units.
Spartans. If you're tall effort, Green Hijacks and Banshees, I'm like,
All
well, that's
units.
kind of silly. You didn't have to do that, but I get
All
it.
units.
I'm there.
Let's clear out of there.
Locked in.
All units.
You bet.
All units. All units.
Ready to go.
All units.
Damn it. Yes.
All units. All units.
That's like one of the few things I like about
All
Crevice.
units.
The amount of reactors gives anybody a decent chance of coming on top. It helps out Forge a lot considering his, you know, either resource or
All units.
just unit advantage overall, considering Grizzly is just absolutely garbage.
All units.
If only he was generally better,
All units.
I would upgrade, but that's not how it goes. So yeah, now this is checkmate, attacking Anderson's main,
All units.
and making sure she does not bother us anymore.
Reinforcements research.
Reno is rightfully annoyed at those flamethrowers. I was like, yo, I'll take this shit out first before coming back to help. His arbiter could take care of those flamethrowers. But this I would return. So Anders lost her main, and checkmate. Bill makes an attempt at another resounding push with some units in separate pockets. I don't know why he's doing that, but okay.
Where to?
All units. All units.
Ready. Right away.
Local units.
And up here, making sure he does not lose that expo. Candy Gooch for the win.
Units. Local units. Local units. Local units. Local units.
Feeling fine.
Local units. Local units. Local units. Local units.
Right away.
Local units.
Despite everything I said though, good game to these guys. If they were just more aggressive or just had a different mindset, we could have lost a lot sooner. But I mean, that's how wars games tend to be. Honestly, the higher level you get, the more of a psychological game it becomes.
Local units.
As honestly, if I was just a bit more negative, it could have resigned and we would have not had this fine video to see here.
Transport is a go.
Local units. Local units. Local units. All units. Local units. Enemy engagement. All units.
Ready.
All units. Enemy engagement. All units.
Ready.
All units.
Well, while we're here, I like to say for those who have seen my Veterancy Part 1 and 2 video, I appreciate you guys so much. I saw the amount of views and comments, and it really inspired me to make more Halo Wars guides. I will talk about Halo Wars 2 in the future. I do have some games and footage, and I'll give my thoughts on that game. Take a page out of Terms book. I've always wanted to give my thoughts on that game, considering I did play it a lot. Maybe about a third as much as the first Halo Wars by comparison, but that's like a rough guesstimate. I'm still working on a Super Turtle guide and a few other things,
Local units.
and I attempt to have more Super Turtles in general in the future with some commentary over it. So yeah,
Local units.
enjoy the rest of the carnage.
Local units. Local units. Local units. Local units.
Healing target. All done. Send us in. Where to?
Local units. Local units. Local units.
Let's go. Orders.
Local units. Local units. Vehicle depot complete.
Pulling out.
Local units. 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 All units. All units.
Locked in.
All units.
Ready to go. We're ready. Yes, sir. Locked in.
All units.
Online and roll. Fueled up.
Enemy engagement. All units.
Pulling out.
All units. All units.
Yes, sir. Dropping to her.
Enemy team is victorious.